I find this interesting. The specifics are that it's planned for maybe today, Friday. On the earnings call earlier in the week, which you participated in, Ashok Swami, who's the Robotaxi chief, said that they were doing this anyway, but there are some bits that we don't know. What was in the Business Insider report, and what do you make of it?
So the Business Insider report is based on a memo, an internal memo, within Tesla, promising a sort of robotaxi service, albeit one with a driver in the driver's seat. I'm not sure if you can really call it a robotaxi if there is if it's a driverless car that does have a driver, but what they're saying is that they're testing this. The other thing I'll say is California has a pretty robust permitting system for driverless cars. In fact, this has been around since like 2018. I believe the first company that had this permit was Zoox, but Waymo, Cruise, lots and lots of companies for years have been operating these services with permits, as anyone who lives in the Bay Area knows. Tesla does not have any of these permits yet. What they have is something called a TCP permit. This is basically a permit to operate a charter service with human drivers. So effectively like a black car service, a chauffeur service, whatever. And so my guess is that is how they're going to justify this, which is to say, it's not really an autonomous car as far as the law is concerned. Of course, Tesla has blurred the lines between like what constitutes an autonomous car for years and years.
We were just seeing the Tesla VP of AI software, what he said about the rollout of Robotaxi more broadly on the earnings call. And I'm really interested ultimately here, Max, as to how you get to this vision that by, I think it's the second half of the year, half of Americans are meant to be able to access a Robotaxi. But at the moment, there are about a handful in Austin and maybe a few with a driver at least a person at the driver's seat starting to do San Francisco.
I mean, look, Tesla doesn't really have a robotaxi service today. Like what it has is, 11 or so cars in Austin that have a safety observer. And of course, we know that there, as I said before, there are other companies that are operating actual robotaxi service. Waymo has something like 1,500 vehicles in 5 cities without drivers. I think it just all depends on how you define it. My guess is what they're going to say is they have these testing vehicles. They have relatively wide ranges. Maybe you do some math and theoretically you can justify have it saying that half the population is covered. But I think by any normal person's definition, that just isn't going to be true, just because technically we are not that close to that being possible.
The other big story out today is about Optimus. In March, this is how Elon Musk outlined the plan for Optimus in 2025. Listen to this, Max.
This year, we hopefully will be able to make about 5,000 Optimus robots. We're aiming for enough parts to make 10,000, maybe 12,000. But since it's a totally new product with totally new, like everything is totally new, I'll say like we're succeeding if we get to half of the 10,000 now. But even 5,000 robots, that's the size of a Roman legion, FYI, which is like a little scary thought, like a whole legion of robots. I'd be like, whoa, okay. But I think we'll literally build a legion, at least one legion of robots this year.
There's a report from The Information out today that disputes what Elon Musk outlined, that they are actually nowhere near to 5,000. What do we know, Max?
Yeah, this information report, it's pretty, it pours some cold water on the statements that Musk has made. It talks about, real difficulty manufacturing parts of these robots, particularly the hands. I mean, one thing in that clip that's worth noting, Elon Musk is right when he says this is new and this is hard. And so in a weird way, whereas with robotaxis, there are lots of other companies that have been doing what Tesla is doing for quite some time. With Optimus, if they were actually able to make this work or really get close to making it work, that would be amazing. That would be really impressive. But from this information story, it seems like they're just not progressing where they are. Musk talked about, what was it, a legion? I think what the information said is they have something like 50 Optimi, kind of walking around and picking stuff up and putting it down in the factory. Doesn't sound like doing actual work yet. I don't know how many 50 is, but definitely less than a legion. Musk is somebody who is totally focused, and his sort of expertise is getting investors to look at the future, to not to look at the near here and now, but to look ahead. And so I think if you look at the timing of this robotaxi launch, one possible reason would be you have this information report coming out that makes this other futuristic thing look like it's much further out. So hey, let's speed up the robotaxis. Let's get investors excited about something.